Hey guys, it's Haley and welcome to another bookish video. Today, I am doing another author ranking video. I know I haven't done one of these in so long, so I'm so excited to be back filming another one of these videos where I tell you all about an author's entire backlist, everything they've ever written. I give full reviews, all my star ratings, and then I rank them definitively at the end. Now, obviously, this is completely subjective. These are just my opinions of how I like the books. But today, I feel like it's gonna be really hard to rank this backlist because today I am ranking all the books by Jennifer Hillier. She is, if y'all have been watching my channel for any length of time, you probably know she is one of my very favorite authors, and I've given all of her books above a 4-star rating, and quite a few of them have received 5 stars from me. So many of these books are my favorite thrillers that I've ever read, so I'm so excited to just rave about them with you guys. Like I said, I'm just gonna start out giving reviews and ratings for every single book. I'm gonna do them in publication order. So her first book was Creep, and this book follows a psych professor at a college as she navigates this sordid affair with one of her graduate students. And along the way, she is trying to break off this affair because her super rich, wonderful boyfriend just proposed to her. But she's a little freaked out and scared of this man because when she tries to end the affair, he threatens her, and there are also girls going missing and turning up dead around the college. So she thinks because of this guy's violent disposition that he might be the reason that these women are going missing, and obviously she does not want to end up missing or dead, so she has to navigate this relationship in a very tricky way. And when I read this, I could not believe this was a debut novel. This thriller sucked me in immediately. I cared about all the characters. Something to know about Jennifer Hillier's thrillers is that all of them, I was gonna say almost all, but yes, all of them have morally gray characters, and I love that. A lot of people don't like, unlikable characters. I think it makes the character much more interesting. I would rather read about somebody who is flawed and seems like a genuine, nuanced human being than somebody who's just great and likable and wonderful all the time. So that is definitely present in this book. Another thing that goes across all of her novels is that there is romance heavily featured in every single book. There's always a romance subplot. It never outshines the mystery thriller elements, but I really like that is added in. I think it just adds more intrigue to her stories. And the last thing to know about every single book is that they all go pretty dark. And that is the thing that really shocked me with this one. It is so dark, like Karen Slaughter level of gore and creepy killerness. If you like thrillers about serial killers, I think you're really gonna like this one and a lot of these books. And yeah, I flew through this one. It was so fast-paced, grabbed my attention. However, I did see a piece of the ending coming. I really wanted to give this book 5 stars, but it felt like I was predicting things about a chapter before they happened. So when the reveal came, it wasn't quite as big as an impact as I wanted. But again, I think this story was crafted wonderfully, and obviously everything happened that I wanted to happen, ideally because I was predicting them. But because of that small thing, I did rate this a 4.75 out of 5 stars. I know, ridiculous. Next up came Freak, which is the sequel to Creep, and it follows all of the same characters in the wake of the ending of Creep, which obviously I'm not going to give away. And this book, I accidentally had a piece of it spoiled for myself, which probably contributed to me being able to guess parts of that book. So do not read the back of this if you buy it before you read Creep. You will get spoiled for some parts of that book because this is a sequel. It picks up right when Creep ends. And this one, I just felt like the darkness and the thrilling aspects were a little bit more, not necessarily cheesy, but like big villain monologue kind of style. And I still really enjoyed the book. Again, so fast paced, so entertaining. We really got to dive into the characters that were first established in Creep. But the villain in this one, I didn't like quite as much as I loved the villain in Creep. He was just a menace. And this villain was less fun. So I ended up rating this one a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I know I'm being so nitpicky, but I really have to because I absolutely loved and recommend all of these books. Next up in the publication order comes The Butcher, and this one is so cute and tiny, and this was the first Jennifer Hillier book that I read. It completely caught me by surprise. I did not expect this book to be as amazing as it is. I hadn't heard anybody talk about it. I feel like this book is severely underhyped. I try to recommend it anytime that I can because it is so good. If you like dark, fast-paced, full of action serial killer thrillers, I'm telling you, Jennifer Hillier is your author. And this book follows mostly a couple. And this guy in the couple just inherited his grandfather's house, and they're kind of going through it and trying to remodel it and make it feel like their home instead of the grandfather's home. And while they're going through it, they find this evidence. And his grandfather was the chief of police who famously caught this serial killer. But the evidence they find, they realize may point to somebody else actually being the killer, not the person who was arrested. And this is a big deal for the couple, obviously, not just because the guy's grandpa was like a shitty cop, but also because the girl in the couple, her mother was actually murdered by this notorious serial killer. So suddenly we realize that this guy might not be put away and he might be coming for her next. There are so many layers to this story and it gets so dark so quick. Like there's this one scene that I can picture so vividly, like a movie in my head. I want this book to be a movie so bad. The action reads really like an action movie, and I rarely get that feeling while reading thrillers. I feel like the feeling that I got the first time that I read No Exit by Taylor Adams, when it was just so vivid and the action was so fast. I got that same feeling when reading The Butcher, and I feel like that feeling is so hard to capture, but especially towards the end of this book, I definitely felt it. And this was the book that I credit for getting me absolutely obsessed with Jennifer Hillier. I gave it 5 stars, obviously. Next up, she came out with Wonderland, and I recently read this one this past Halloween and absolutely loved it. How many times can I say that I absolutely love these books? I know. If you are looking for a amusement park, theme park, creepy clown kind of horror thriller book, this one would be great for that. It's following this town whose entire economy, infrastructure, literally everything rests on the success of this theme park called Wonderland. But over the years, Wonder workers, obviously the people who work at Wonderland, have been going missing, and they've all been these young boys, which is very suspicious. But the cops are crooked in this town, and they're like, you know what, we're just gonna turn and look the other direction because we don't want to try to shut down Wonderland. This is basically who pays our salaries, so we're just going to keep it quiet. And this new badass female deputy moves to town, and she starts investigating these deaths and uncovering what really happened. Our main character, Vanessa, the new badass lady cop who moves to town, she is so fun to follow. She also has a little romance subplot, which is so fun to see her kind of like branching out, exploring relationships. I believe she's divorced and she has kids, so that is fun to kind of read about, and develops her character even further, where we feel so aligned with her, even though she's not like a 100% ethical person all the time. Like, she still has that little piece of being morally gray, where if she doesn't get the clearance, she would rather ask for forgiveness after the fact than ask for permission from the crooked superior cops above her. And the reveal at the end of this book shook me to my core. It was so dark. We get these little chapters interspersed throughout the like investigation of these boys just trapped in this like dungeon type space, and it is so creepy. It is literally terrifying. Those chapters full on feel like horror. Like, it's not even thriller at that point. It is like a horror book. It was making me like look around my house. I was reading this in the dark in like Halloween time, and I was like fully scared by this book, which doesn't happen a lot. And when we finally understand what is happening, it is just so twisted, and it reminded me of Pretty Girls in that way that's like, it goes all the way up to the top, and like you keep uncovering these layers and these layers. It was so good. Obviously, you can tell by the way I'm talking about it. I gave this book 5 stars as well. Then next up, we have what you've all been waiting for. Jar of Hearts, possibly my favorite book of all time. Obsessed, can do no wrong. Obviously, this was a 5-star book for me. I have been raving about this book for months. If you haven't heard, now you know. Please buy this book immediately and read it, because it is so good. I've recommended it to people who haven't liked it, and to that I say, your taste level is questionable. But for me, I am absolutely obsessed with this book. I feel like I've told you guys this synopsis approximately 1,000,000 times, but I'll do it again. We are following Gio, who had a part in the murder of her best friend back in high school, but she never got apprehended for the crime, so she's just off living her bougie little life, and then suddenly she gets arrested for her part in it 15 years later. So we follow her trial, we follow her going to jail, and then we follow her afterwards when a copycat criminal starts murdering people in a very similar way to the murder that happened back when she was in high school. So everyone in the town thinks it's her, since Gio just got released, and she's kind of having to exonerate herself, deal with this persecution, and also figure out what the hell is happening and who is committing these murders along the way. And this is also a dual timeline, so we're seeing what is happening in real time with Gio, obviously, but we also flash back to what happened to her in high school, and those chapters are just so chilling. Like, they feel like a little bit nostalgic, but in like a creepy way. Like, it's giving Heathers a little bit, where it's like she's in her varsity jacket drinking a Slurpee, but they're about to commit a murder. Like, I just cannot describe the way this book made me feel. I cannot capture it. It's like when you have that smell and it takes you back to a very certain time and you can't describe it. That is the feeling that I have when I think about this book. The reading experience is just so unique. I remember it so vividly. The twists at the end blew my mind. They are very, very dark though. Very, very graphic, dark content in this one, so make sure you look up triggers before you read it. I feel like that was a problem for a few people that I recommended this to, as they did not know how dark it was. Please, please make sure you do yourself a favor and look into that before you read this book. But if you do, I hope you love it as much as I do. Obviously, it's 5 stars. Then we have Little Secrets. And this book I actually read for a book club, and it was a couple months after I had read The Butcher. And I was like, oh yeah, I remember that author's name. I really liked her. Let me give her another shot for this book club. And I ended up really, really liking it yet again. And this is a kidnapping story. So if you like kidnapping thrillers, missing children, any of that in your thrillers, which I really do, I think you will really like this one. It's following the kidnapping of this little boy, and him and his mother are just out Christmas shopping, living their little cutesy bougie lives, when suddenly the mother's on a phone call. She looks down, the son is gone. Bye, disappeared, poof, in another dimension, gone. And the panic that the reader feels in that moment, it's like you're right there along with this mother who's like frantically searching for her child. She has no way of knowing where he is. So we follow her throughout dealing with this disappearance, and then we also follow her a year later when her son is still missing. She's still looking for him. She's actively grieving. We follow her going to these grief groups, which I feel as a therapist are represented really accurately. I ran grief groups myself, and the way that that one in the book is written, I think is great representation. Again, these characters are so flawed and feel so real. It is crazy to me, but the ending did go a little bit off of where I was wanting it to go. I saw this book going in a direction and I was like, please no, please not that. No, please not that. That's no. And it went there. And in some respects, I'm like, okay, respect it for going that way. It's dark, it's twisted, woof. But at the same time, I did not want it to go that way, and I also saw it going that way. I predicted who the kidnapper was. So for those reasons, I ended up giving a 4 out of 5 star to this book, but 4 stars is still an amazing book. I still obviously recommend Little Secrets. And then her latest release has been Things We Do in the Dark, which comes out, I think, in a couple months. I know you can pre-order it now. I read the arc, and I also gave this book 5 stars. I thought it was phenomenal. We are following Paris Peralta, who is this wife of this famous comedian. He's rich, he's in Hollywood, and suddenly he dies. And Paris wakes up out of this haze with her husband dead in the bathtub, blood all over her, and she's holding one of his straight razors, which is also covered in his blood. Okay, case closed, like she did it, except no, because we are following what actually happened. We're trying to investigate and find out who actually killed Jimmy, Paris's husband. And at the same time, we are diving into Paris's past. And the reason why she's so upset that she's in the paper and on the news, because she doesn't want her past coming back to bite her. There's also podcast elements in this book. We follow some podcast interviews with this other guy that's connected to her past. And this is another one that goes super dark. I thought all of the twists were so shocking, and it just has that classic Jennifer Hillier reading style where the story is crafted in a way that just keeps your attention. Whether it's with romance, with darkness, with a twist, you cannot put down this book. So obviously, like I said, this release for me, it was 5 stars as well. Now let's finally get into ranking all of them. My least favorite, definitely still love this book, but my least favorite has to be Little Secrets, then followed by Freak, then Creep, then Wonderland, then Things We Do in the Dark. In second place, we have The Butcher, and obviously, y'all knew this was coming. On top, we have Jar of Hearts. That is my definitive ranking of Jennifer Hillier's entire backlist. I hope you guys had fun watching this video and got some more thriller recommendations. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like this video if you liked it, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!